and our media sports show. Today is a great day, beautiful day here, along with my co-host Kia Lyons and Jeremy Fishman. Go check them out; they do a great job. But Yankee fans, we have a special episode for you today. We got Denny Neagle, a World Series champion from the New York Yankees, former pitcher. He had a fantastic career. He won the World Series in 2000, two-time All-Star, and the NL wins leader in 1997. He also played for the Twins, Pirates, Braves, Reds, and Rockies. But he made his career mark with the Yankees by winning the championship with the stacked team with Derek Jeter, Tino Martinez, Bernie Williams. You can name the roster, man. Heck of a roster right there. But Denny, I just want to say thank you for joining us. It's truly an honor. And all the fans, please tune in on the Speaker app. You can ask questions on that app today. But Denny, thank you for joining. How are you and your family doing today?
I'm doing great, man. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So I want to start it off here. What was your reaction when you saw the Texas Rangers won their first ever World Series title in 52 years, finally making it happen for their franchise?
Well, I was definitely really excited for them. I think it's great for baseball. Anytime you have teams that, like, I was talking to my buddy Tom Babin the other day, and we were talking about that's one of the things that makes baseball such a great sport, is that you just never know. Like, you've got teams like the Yankees, and the Braves these days and stuff too. Even back in our day, it was the same kind of thing. And so you'll have teams with big payrolls in baseball, just like you will in other sports too. But it seems like every year somebody steps up, whether it's the Brewers, whether it's this year with the Rangers, the Phillies the last couple of years. But those teams that the Marlins, look at the way the Marlins have come on the last couple of years. And then to me, like I think the Houston Astros, take away the whole scandal and all that stuff, whatever. But I think they kind of set the model for how the teams are going about it now. In other words, build from within the organization, get your core group of guys. The Yankees did that too. If you really want to be honest about it, with Pettit and Mariano and Posado and all those guys, they built the base, even with all the great payroll they had. But if you can build within the farm system, then go out and add the key players like a Corey Seager and guys like that. But so I think it's a great model of what they've done. But most importantly, too, I think for those fans and for someone like Bruce Bochy, who's always been one of my favorite people in baseball, I think it was a tremendous thing to watch.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are so grateful for you. New York is grateful for you. I was there for the Subway Series. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Trust me, that was a blast to be able to win it in New York with the Subway Series. Absolutely.
I'd like to start from the beginning of your career, but I'm just going to go with it. What was the best moment of that whole series?
I would definitely have to say, for me personally, just to be able to have my whole family there, to be able to go through that whole process with me and watch the whole thing. Because as you guys know, most of the time when your family comes in for the World Series, they either come in for games 1 and 2 or 3, 4, and 5, whichever your home games are. Because usually the road games are across the coast, or at least somewhere that's not exactly easy to travel to. So maybe your wife or girlfriend, whoever you have with you, your significant other, goes to it, but it's tough for the whole family. My whole family's from Baltimore, so they just took the train up and were able to come up to watch the whole series, being the Subway Series. So for them to be able to watch all that, partake in all that, soak it all in with me, was pretty incredible. I remember Billy Crystal was there filming background scenes for the movie 61 that he was shooting for HBO. And
cool.
so he was there the whole time and throughout the whole series, basically. And when we won, my whole family's on the field, just like everybody's family's out there celebrating, running around, hooting and hollering and stuff. So I'm like, hey, Billy, this is my dad. This is my uncle. This is my brother. This is my cousin. Finally, he's like, Jesus Christ, how many Nagles are there, man?
That's fun.
Did they get to meet Billy Joel too? I know he was there. He did right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a who's who, as you can imagine. Any of the World Series in the postseason, it usually brings out the stars and stuff. But that, being in New York the whole time with, various Mets and Yankees fans, there was tons of celebrities there. So they were excited to meet all the different celebrities.
That's awesome.
I want to go back to that start of the 2000 season. You're with the Reds. You guys have Griffey and Bichette. You think you're going to compete. All of a sudden, it just doesn't work out. Trade deadline season comes around. Jim Bowden pretty much says that you're not going anywhere. A few days later, you get traded. Tell us about that and the transition to New York.
Yeah, well, because actually the crazy thing is that I don't remember exactly what our record was, but what I do remember is because of the wild card being in play at that point, since '95. I think we were only a couple games out just for the wild card, so we were still in the running for it. It was more so, I think, so it shocked a bunch of people that they traded me, including some of my teammates. I know Griffey and Bichette and the boys weren't too happy because we were still in it at that point. But the big reason why Jim made the decision, though, to be honest with you, is he sat me down after I made my last start before the All-Star break on the Friday, the weekend right before the All-Star break. So on Saturday, he asked to speak to me in his office. And he was just candid, and I was candid right back with him. He was like, Denny, I'd like to get a good idea of where you think your head might be, because you're going to your free agent year. Do we have a chance to sign you? And he said, we'd like to lock you up now. And I said, Jim, I'll be honest with you. This is my last go around of free agency, and I'd be doing myself an injustice if I didn't at least test the market and see what's out there. So I said, but look, I've enjoyed my time here. I love it here. I love the fan base. I love my teammates and stuff. I love what we're doing here. So I'm going to give you guys every crack to re-sign me too, but I'm definitely going to test the free agent market. So he said, I appreciate your candidacy. That being said, there's a good chance I might have to trade you, but it probably won't be till the trade deadline. So that's what I was thinking too. The All-Star break comes and goes, or not comes and goes. The All-Star break comes. I was with my now ex-wife, but my wife at the time. We went to Colorado because we were going to be open up the second half playing against the Rockies at Coors. So we went to this Beaver Creek Vale up in that area just to relax for a couple of days. Wow. I left my phone charged, and I remember at our condo we were at, I was going for like 4 or 5 hours. I get back and I had like 39 missed calls, and all these text messages from my agent. He's like, dude, you got to call me back, man. Your name's getting tossed around everywhere down here in Atlanta at the All-Star game. They're talking about trading you before even the All-Star break is up, and I'm like, what? So when I finally get back and check the messages, whatever, I was like, dude, what the hell's going on? He's like, dude, I don't know, but Bowden's making a play, man. He's pitting your name against every, he's getting all the teams to bid against themselves. He did it right, whatever, because he let it be known I was available. But, if you want, you got to, to jump while the iron's hot, so to speak, or whatever. And so, it was a whirlwind of a couple of days. But the crazy thing was, to be honest with you, Jeremy, is that my agent said he was here and I was either going back to the Braves, the Diamondbacks, or I think the Red Sox at that time. The Yankees weren't even thrown in that mix. And I think that's the way Cashman liked to do it. He kind of came in, snuck in under the radar, and stuff, because the next day when my agent says, well, you've been traded, you want to guess to who? And I was like, back to the Braves? No. Diamondbacks? No. Red Sox? No. Like, where the hell am I going? He's like, who's the best team in baseball right now? I go, the Yankees, but there's no way. Yep. I'm like, what, are you kidding me?
Yo, thanks for the trade.
Yeah, exactly. It was nuts.
That's awesome.
It reminded me because you just didn't think, because they were so stacked, as you were talking, Nathan, at the beginning of the broadcast here, they were so stacked. I mean, that team was loaded with future Hall of Famers and stuff, and just didn't seem like they needed much. But I didn't realize that Coney was hurting at that time. El Duque was hurting. They had a few pitchers that were hurting at that time. Kind of like when I got traded to the Braves too. They had Mattis, Glavine, Smoltz, and Steve Avery, but Steve Avery was hurting at the time, with the shoulder injury. So that's why I got traded to them. So kind of the same circumstances when I went to the Yankees. So I wasn't complaining though.
Well, it worked out well. You got the World Series ring out of it.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. That was it had to be so exciting. I mean, when we were living in New York, when we were getting close, of course, like the Yankees always did, but then to find out it was New York, it was huge. Just so cool. And then you walk right in. That's awesome.
Incredible. I mean, it was almost like kind of divine intervention, whatever you want to call it, because in '96, when I was with the Braves, we had the tough loss against you guys. We were up 2-0 in that famous World Series, Jim Leyrit's home run, in the game 4. That was actually my start that he did that. I was winning 6-3. So it was funny. Oh yeah. So my dad's jokes are just like me. So I remember like the one off season, we were at some charity event down in Palm Springs, and Leyritz walked by. My pop's like, "Hey, watch this." Like that. He goes, "Hey, Den." Leyritz right next to him, and he goes, "Hey, Den, let me know when that Jim Leyritz guy comes around, man. I got to give that guy a piece of my mind, man. That piece of crap, whatever, ruined my son's game like that." And Leyritz looks at him. He goes, "Dude, is this guy serious, Denny?" And I'm like, "It's my dad, Jim. He's messing with you, man." But yeah, so so to be able, to lose that one in '96 after being up 2-0, which would have been my first World Series championship, that was a tough loss. So now to come full circle and be able to win my first championship in the Pinstripes in New York, the Subway Series, like I said, my whole family there. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Wow.
And it's amazing that you actually brought it to fruition by saying to him, "Hey, like I'm going to put myself out on the market." You
Mm.
proactively called attention to, to it happening.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing you learn in this game is that there's the days of all the various, when I was growing up, if you named a team, I could rattle off 10, 12, 13 guys right away that I knew from that team.
Yeah.
It gets tougher and tougher to do that now, but there's, the loyalty kind of goes both ways. I mean, it's a business. We understand that the owners have to make their decisions. The GMs have to make their decisions based on financial decisions and stuff.
Yeah.
But same for the players too, and so I was
Yeah.
glad you're right. I'm glad I advocated for myself, and little did I know I would end up in New York. I mean, it worked out even better than I thought, but absolutely.
It's a great story. You
Yeah,
started and finished your career with World Series. It's awesome. I mean, like I'm blessed just to hear like all these details.
Yeah.
So
Before we go any further, we are live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and fans, please tune in. You can ask questions to Denny Neagle today on the speaker app, and we are live with World Series champion, former New York Yankees pitcher, Denny Neagle. But Danny, I want to ask you, going back to the '96 team, what did you like the Yankees from afar? Being on the opposing dugout before you went to the Yankees, but what did you like about that team that you faced in the World Series?
Well, I mean, the '96 team.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, that team, that team was stacked as well too. That team was kind of, based more on a lot of veteran guys, real good veteran leadership guys like Darryl Strawberry, Tim Raines, Cecil Fielder, and of course then guys like Paul O'Neill and stuff too. He was already a veteran at that point also too. But then, when you have guys like David Cohn too, anchoring the rotation, Andy Pettitte was this young superstar pitcher in making and stuff, whatever. But
yeah.
The one thing that they had, I think that was their secret weapon at that time, who was kind of like just coming into his own, was Mariano Rivera. I mean, I'll be honest with you, with all due respect to someone like John Wetland, who was a great closer in his time, whatever, our hitters would have told you they would have absolutely rather face John Wetland than Mariano Rivera.
Yeah.
The guy, I remember guys coming back going, you seem like you can hit it, and then it's just by you. And now, because that was even before. That was before he really came up with the cutter. He had started tinkering with it, I think, towards the end of that season. But that's when he just threw like all high fastballs. And it wasn't like he threw, 101, 102 miles an hour. It seemed like it was hittable, but the guy said it just had that extra gear and they couldn't catch up to it. It just disappeared on him.
Wow.
And then, of course, when you have, someone like Joe Torre managing the team and stuff, whatever, with his pedigree and keeping that team loose and stuff, whatever. I mean, the Yankees just always had that certain aura about them, even though at that point, that was the start of their run, I mean, let's be honest, at that point, the Braves were the team of the 90s. We were coming off the World Series championship in '95, looking like we were going to repeat and everything. So, you would think the pressure would have been on the Yankees and they would have been feeling it. But I'll tell you what, you definitely didn't sense it at all. Coming up, we win the first 2 games in New York, come back with a 2-game, to nothing lead, coming back home. You would think that, boy, they would have been deflated. Not at all, man. I'll tell you what, Coney came out and outdueled Glavine, and then, Leyritz hit that home run. And that was the turning point, obviously. But the game, obviously that did it was Andy Pettitte outpitching, outdueling Smoltz, who was having his Cy Young year that year. And I'll tell you what, I'll go to battle with John Smoltz over anybody, in big post-game situations. That guy was unbelievable. Again, with all due respect to Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux, Hall of Fame pitchers, obviously with great pedigrees himself, Smoltz just had that ability to take it even that to another level even too. So for Andy to go out there and outduel Smoltz in that game, that was pretty incredible to watch.
The amount of Hall of Famers that have been named in the minutes of this podcast episode is insane. So I want to ask you, out of all those guys, who have you learned from the most and taken the best advice from?
I'll tell you what, I'm a pitching coach now in high school. I started out just kind of like for the fun of it, to finish off my son's high school baseball career. And then the juniors on the team last year convinced, because my son just graduated last year and now he's just going to college now. But the juniors on the team last year were like, first they told my son, they're like, "Hey Chase, can you convince your dad to come back one more year, man? We want him back one more year." And so I was like, man, how do I say no to that, man? And so I actually said, it was kind of cute too, because the scene in Wolf of Wall Street when Leonardo DiCaprio says, I'm not going to drop the F-bomb, but, you know, in the line where he's like, you know, I'm not effing leaving. I'm not effing leaving. I'm coming back. I sent that little meme to all the juniors on a little group text, and I said, "This is how I feel about Chatfield baseball." And it says, you know, "I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving." You know,
Oh, that's so good.
All right, coach. You know, so anyways, the reason why I bring that up is because I tell my pitchers now, one of the best advice that Greg Maddux gave me, and he did this to a lot of young pitchers when they would get called to the big leagues too. He'd have them come out and watch BP, right? And he goes, "Now look, I want you to watch this for the next 5, 6, 7 minutes." So there'd be guys, you know, whether it's Derek Jeter or whoever it is, you know, very successful future Hall of Fame hitters in the batting cage. And he's like, "Now, what'd you just see?" And of course, usually the answers are like, I don't know. It looks like he likes to go the other way. You know, maybe he likes to ball up a little bit. He goes, "No, that's not what I saw. You know what I saw? I saw a 70-year-old coach throwing batting practice probably at 50 miles an hour tops, maybe 55 miles an hour. And a future Hall of Famer still getting himself out about, you know, once every 7 or 8 swings, you know, 55 right down the middle. And look at that. They still roll it over and pop it up sometimes. So what does that tell you? Throw strikes. Don't tink around. Don't give in to these guys. Try not to give them so much credit. The best hitters in baseball still fail 7 out of 10 times. That's you know, that's a stat. You know, you can't, it's facts, right? I mean, the best hitters are 300 hitters and they still fail 7 out of 10 times. So that really stuck with me. You know, I mean, I always felt like I was aggressive too, but that really kind of like ingrained that thought process even more to me. And then from there, to be honest with you, Jeremy, I always tell everybody the question I used to get asked a lot was, you know, what was it like pitching the same rotation with 3 future Hall of Famers? I mean, that must have been tough trying to live up to that, you know, and stuff. And I said, no, it was probably the best thing ever happened to me, because my feeling on that was, first of all, I had the best seat in the house, just like we were just talking about. Night in and night out, I got to watch, you know, Greg Maddux throw a 79 pitch complete game, Tom Glavine get 14 ground ball outs, you know, John Smoltz punch out 13, you know, whatever. So now when it was my turn, I'm like, oh crap, I don't want to be the low man on the totem pole now, you know, and stuff. And so I always said, I likened it to like, you know, running in like a 100-yard dash, right? If you run in a 100-yard dash with 3 other guys, or, you know, however many other guys that you know you can beat, you beat them every single time. Sure, you're probably going to win the race, but are you going to run your best time? Probably not. Now, if you run that same race with guys that are just as fast, if not faster than you, you might not win the race, but you're probably going to post your best times ever. And that's how I felt pitching that rotation, man. They just pushed me and elevated my game to another level.
Wow.
I'm not a pitcher, but I am a high school athlete, so I can kind of see the reverse of that, you know, watching pitchers in their bullpen and everything. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that is great. Just hearing about all your response to that, just it's like an energy, it's an electric energy. Tell us about your experience in becoming a pitcher and then staying in the zone when you got to the majors, and then staying there and maintaining your personal like zone and strength.
Well, you know, to be honest with you, there was probably a couple moments in my life throughout my whole baseball career, going back to when I was a kid, that really kind of helped molded me and helped me get to where I was. One of them was when I was young. I was the kid that all the kids were afraid to face. You know, I was the young fireball and left-hander that, you know, kind of got a reputation in my small hometown in Maryland, you know, that, oh God, we don't want to face him. You know, he throws too hard. So kids would be stepping out, like, you know, kind of afraid to step, you know, yeah, afraid to step in the box against me, because I threw the ball pretty hard when I was younger. And then when I got to about like 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old, I threw my arm out. You know, it was like one of those 8 a.m. Saturday morning games. And I just felt like, you know, my arm was just tight or sore or something like that. But by the end of the game, I couldn't even feel my arm anymore. So my dad took me to go see the orthopedic doctor at the time, a guy named Dr. Steele, who was the orthopedic doctor for the Baltimore Orioles. And he said, you know, who knows, it could have been Tommy John, you know, at that point. I don't know. But basically he told my dad, he said, "Mr. Neagle, you know, I don't like what I'm seeing in these x-rays and stuff, whatever, you know." He goes, "I would not have your son pitch for at least the next couple of years. Give his arm about at least 2-year rest, you know, to let him grow and, you know, and heal, and the growth plates and everything else, you know, in there and stuff, whatever." I took about a year off, and then I started pitching because I couldn't take it anymore. You know, I didn't have to have surgery or anything. But when I came back, all of a sudden, all those kids I could blow it by were catching up to me. So, you know, at an early age, at, you know, 14 years old, I had to learn how to pitch already, you know. So it stunk, and it was tough to go through at first, you know, and stuff, because I'm like, this stinks, man. These guys never used to catch up to me and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was a valuable lesson, because I had to learn how to pitch at an early age, you know. So I was never really, from that point on, I was never really that fireball kid that, you know, had that electric stuff. So, but, you know, I learned how to pitch, and but I also felt like, it helped me on the mental side of it too, because I always said that, I might not have the most electric stuff, but I felt like I could outgut or, anybody out there on the mound. Nobody was going to outgut me out there. I could suck it up and grind it out as well as anybody in the game. And the other thing, to be honest with you, that happened to me was when I got called to the big leagues. I had great success all the way through high school, college, the minor leagues. I won 20 games in the minor league, so that propelled me pretty quick. My first full season, I went 20-3 in the minor league, so that like jetted me right up the minor league ladder.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
so I always had success. And then all of a sudden I get to the big leagues. I did good, whatever, my first year and a half. And then my second full season, I struggled bad. I was just getting hammered. It seemed like every other start or every other outing, I was just getting my brains beat in. And so to the point finally where I got sent down, for like 8 or 9 days. And I was with the Pirates who sent me down to Buffalo. But again, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because, 2 things could have happened. I could have sulked, whatever, and woe is me, and threw myself a pity party. But I said, man, you know what? I got to learn from this. I got to get back on track. The most important thing that I did, I finally stepped back and reflected. And I was like, man, I am not having fun right now. I was constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting to see who was going to take my spot, whatever, because I'm struggling, woe is me, and that kind of stuff, whatever. But I was like, man, I've always had fun in this game. I'm a goofball, whenever I'm not pitching, I'm a jokester. I like to have fun. Because I feel like, we're getting paid stupid amount of money to play a kid's game. So how can you not have fun doing this, right? But all of a sudden, I wasn't having fun anymore. So I made a promise to myself right then and there in my hotel room in Buffalo that, dang it, Denny, you got to start having fun again, man. Because the last thing I want to do is look back and say, I didn't get to enjoy the ride. So from that moment on, I said, no matter what, good or bad, you got to take the good with the bad, stuff. That's the only way you can ever succeed in this game, stuff. So it was another good lesson for me. So I was able to enjoy the ride that much more.
That's awesome. You're not leaving and you're having fun.
Absolutely.
So you play for 2, I think, in my opinion, 2 of the best managers in Joe Torre and Bobby Cox. Can you tell our fans what did they bring? What do they both mean to you in your career?
It's funny. They're both, 2 different type personalities too. Although the funny thing is, like when you played, I've talked to a few people about this that played against Bobby in the opposing dugout. When you played against him as an opposing manager, he seemed like he was kind of this like tough, gruff kind of older man, and stuff, whatever, and ornery, whatever you want to call him and stuff, but it couldn't be farther from the truth. I mean, the guy was he was unbelievable. I always tell people, so many managers, in all different sports, always use that line that my door's always open, right? Come in and talk to me about anything. Bobby really exemplified that better than, I think, almost better than any manager I've ever played for. Perfect example is when I was with the Braves, one of my dad's and one of my good friends, he was like in between me and my dad's age, but he used to come to spring training every year with my dad, and every manager I ever played for got to know my dad and this guy Dave. We call him Super Dave. and Dave ended up having a brain injury and passed away watching us play. I remember we had a home and home interleague, 2 in New York against the Yankees, and then they were coming to Atlanta to play 2 in Atlanta. I was supposed to pitch in New York, and I got the news that my buddy David passed away, and so I went in and talked to Bobby. I was supposed to pitch the next night, and I said, Bobby, man, I know I'm supposed to pitch tomorrow, but I said, remember Super Dave? He goes, oh yeah, how's he doing? I said, just found out he passed away tonight, man. And it was sudden and stuff. And he's like, oh, Denny, man, I'm so sorry. He goes, Nace. And I said, but Bobby, I know I'm starting tomorrow. And he goes, you're not starting tomorrow, Nace. No, screw that. I said, what do you mean, Bobby? And he goes, you need to go home and be with your family, man. Don't worry about that, and stuff, whatever. So he's like, we'll figure that out, Nace. Don't even worry about that. And here we are in a pennant race as usual and stuff, whatever. But, there was no questions asked. I didn't even have to say anything. Bobby was like, Denny, just go home, be with your family. That's more important right now. So every one of us that played for Bobby during my time, he was like a second father to every one of us. And then by the end of his career, he had been around long enough. He was almost like a second grandfather to all those young kids that he was managing his last like 5 to 7 years of his career and stuff, whatever. But Bobby was intense though too. I mean, there was a reason why I'm pretty sure he holds the record now for most ejections, and because he was that passionate about fighting for his guys, whether it was getting the calls for his pitchers or if he felt like his hitters were getting kind of screwed at the plate on some balls and strikes calls or whatever. We knew he had our back and went to war with us and stuff. So he could be pretty intense also too. Joe, on the other hand, Joe was like that calming influence, man. It just, you talk about never too high with the highs and too low with the lows, whatever. It was just, there was probably one of the most even keel guys I've ever seen. I mean, it was hard to get any emotion up. Don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously Joe could show emotion too when he had to go out there and argue for his guys too. he had some good arguments with some umpires over the years as well too. But I mean, sometimes you had to look over. I think that to see if he had a pulse because he was just so calm over there. In a good way. I mean that in a good way. When you can't tell if he's upset, if he's laughing, if he's not, whatever. That's a good thing because you want that calming influence on the guys.
Wow.
Yeah, he had those eyes, almost like, is he going to kill him or is he going to love him?
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say, though, too, is that Clemens always said, too, he goes, and Roger's not exactly like, Roger's a pretty intimidating guy himself, obviously, and stuff. But even Rocket used to say to me, he goes, I don't know, kid. He goes, I have to admit, man, that'd be one dude I don't know if I want to see him in a scary dark alley with those eyes peering down at you.
That's funny.
I'll stay on the topic of managers here. Aaron Boone has had his differences with Yankees fans. You either love him or hate him. I want to know your opinion on Aaron Boone, his kind of more analytical approach, as some fans would say it, but also, he's always there for his guys. How would you feel if Boone was your manager?
I would love it. First of all, I'm going to be a little biased here too, because Booney was my teammate with the Reds. So that was my boy in Cincinnati. I loved Aaron. We got along great, stuff. I used to ride him pretty good, stuff, because he was younger than me. And in fact, I got traded for his brother. So when it was me and the Brett Boone trade. Brett went to the Braves and I went to the Reds. And so I remember joking with him going, "Oh, you must hate me already, man, knowing that, I got rid of your brother and stuff." He goes, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, I don't want to play with him anymore, man. I didn't want to have to be compared to him and stuff, So I'm like, "Oh, okay. All right. We're going to be all right then." And so I kind of took Booney under my wings a little bit, when I was in Cincinnati. So I love Aaron. And I think Aaron is a great baseball guy. I think he's got a very, very high baseball IQ. I think you're right, Jeremy. Sometimes I think maybe he can probably maybe take it too far, with the analytical side, playing the numbers. I think that's the problem with today's game, though, too, is that what's the balance between the analytics, spin rates and all the other stuff that goes on in today's game. I think it absolutely has a place in the game. But I think sometimes you can't forget about the old school feel and going with your gut sometimes too. I mean, I think that's why you see guys like Dusty Baker and Bruce Bochy are the ones that are still having success in this game too, because they haven't forgotten about, that old person on your shoulder or that gut speaking to you, whatever, because sometimes, man, you have to throw all the analytics out the window as far as I'm concerned. But, look, let's face it. I mean, you're always going to be under the microscope that much more when you're managing the New York Yankees. They are the metric that everything is set by, right? So, unfortunately, it is a "what have you done for me lately" world, and that's understandable, though. I mean, when you get hired to, Aaron knew that when you get hired to become the manager of the New York Yankees, it's different than being hired to become the manager of the Florida Marlins or the Milwaukee Brewers or somebody like that, And so, who knows? They haven't made a decision yet, right?
No, Boone is going to be back. They said.
Yeah, he's definitely.
Oh, they
back.
did it now. Okay, I didn't hear that. Okay, well, honestly, Jeremy, I'm glad because I do feel that I feel like he's got the potential still to bring a championship home to them. Because look, let's face it. The fact of the matter is, you can have the best manager in all of baseball that ever managed the game, but if the guys aren't healthy, if the guys aren't producing and stuff, you're only as good as your players take. And Aaron knows that, and stuff, and that's why he's always going to have his players back too.
Another thing, just to follow up with that, do you think a lot of that analytics comes from the manager, or do you think it's more of the higher ups in the front office kind of telling them how to rule that team?
I think it comes more from the higher ups, to be honest with you. I really do. Yeah. I mean, unless Aaron has, changed the way he approached the game when we were teammates and stuff, which I highly doubt, and stuff. All you have to do is look at Aaron when, he did such an amazing job when he was doing the broadcast for ESPN and stuff. I was super impressed. I remember texting him one day going, "Dude, where'd this come from, man? Who's the smart guy up in the booth, man?" Stuff. But it was impressive the way he would break down games and break down swings, and stuff, whatever. So he knows the game. He knows the game inside and out. I mean, for crying out loud, look at his baseball lineage. That's one of the royalties of baseball. The Boones, the Bells, and stuff. I mean, not too many, people can say they've had 3 or 4 generations.
Yep.
playing the big leagues and stuff. So, he got brought up the right way and he knows the game the right way. So I think that's the other thing that's tough is that he's got a balance of how much he has to listen to and stuff, whatever, compared to how much he, has the total reins for.
Why would he be hired if he wasn't going to listen to what his bosses are telling him? That's my whole thing with managers. It's like they're listening to people who are paying them. It's not fully up to them. That's what I think a lot of fans aren't understanding. It's a business at the end of the day.
Big business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, look, I can give you a perfect example of my Commanders, Washington Commanders, which I still have a hard time saying. They're always the Redskins to me, but I don't want to go there. But I mean, look at someone like Daniel Snyder. I mean, same thing. That guy he wanted to run that team from above and stuff, whatever, and look what happened. I mean, that team has just been horrendous. And so hopefully just, because you can't, you know what I mean, Jeremy, you can't manage a team like that, or you can't run a team like that. The best way you do it is, and that's why we were so great for so long in Atlanta too, because Ted Turner hired John Schultz for a reason and said, you put the team together. And then John Schultz said, Bobby, it's your team. You manage the team.
So
I'll get you the players. You manage it. And that's how it's supposed to be run. You cannot micromanage like that.
I agree.
Yes.
Am I up next or is it you?
You go.
Okay, let's go here. Let's ask Dennis, what is your absolute best baseball moment? Anytime in your career or life?
Or life. Wow, that's a good one.
Or life.
Man, God, because one would probably have to, because this one, most of them do revolve around my dad too, because my dad was my biggest fan. And I unfortunately lost my dad 2 years. It'll be 2 years this December. He passed away in December 2021. And, and I said, now sometimes he would drive me nuts, and stuff, because it was almost too much sometimes, where my dad would be like pulling hamstrings, trying to run after guys, making sure, Denny Neagle Sr., because he was so proud of his son and stuff. But and like I tell people now, I'm like, I'd give anything just to hear that one more time now and stuff. But, so, probably for me personally, one of the best games I ever pitched was when we were down 2-1 in the '97 NLCS, and I threw I think 4-hit shutout against the Marlins. And being down 2-1, and my whole family was there in the stands, and yelling and screaming afterwards when I'm doing the interviews on the field and stuff, whatever. But just to look up afterwards and see my dad with tears in his eyes, those are moments you never forget, for sure.
Amazing.
And honestly too, like, my first win in the Yankee uniform too, to have my dad and my brother took the train up, and the same thing, just to see, because my dad's favorite baseball player was Mickey Mantle. Wow. So oh yeah, I mean, most men his age that were, pretty much the same, right? Right about that. Mickey Mantle, maybe Ted Williams, a little bit older and stuff, whatever, but or Joe DiMaggio.
My dad's too.
What's that?
My dad's too.
Yeah. And so, my dad grew up a huge Washington Senators fan, but then when they left town, he adopted the Orioles. So, but, even though that was his team, his favorite player was always Mickey Mantle. He just loved him and stuff. So for him, like he said, he goes, God, Danny, I mean, just talk about goosebumps to watch you in the pinstripes, and I went out and I pitched lights out that night. We was interleague, and I beat Schilling 3-1 that night.
Nice.
So that was a pretty fun moment too.
Legendary. So glad you got that moment. I'm glad that you got traded.
Hey, those are memories saved forever.
Without a doubt.
You see, I got the Yogi Berra shirt on today, so that's good.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to wear navy.
But yeah, speaking of Brett Boone, actually I'm connected with Brett Boone. He sees our stuff on Facebook, Instagram, and he has his own podcast. The big question: have you been on his podcast yet? The Brett Boone podcast.
No, I still haven't done his yet. I gotta message him and give him some crap about that too, because I know Boone pretty well too. I played in golf tournaments with him and stuff. So you
got to be on the Brett Boone podcast.
Yeah, but what does he say? Boone approves.
Boone approved, yeah. But I want to ask.
Nathan, I actually have to go. Can I just ask one last question before I go?
Yeah.
I always ask because my background is men's apparel, men's fashion. I designed in New York. So, how did it feel to put on the Yankees uniform?
I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, it was funny because when one of the first road trips we went on was to Baltimore. That's where I got traded to them, and I had all these camera crews on me because I was a local kid, and stuff. So they all wanted to know what it was like and stuff. And Jeter was about 2 or 3 lockers down from me on the visiting locker room. And that's the first question they all asked, like, Denny, what's it like, putting on the pinstripes and stuff. And I said, well, you guys know me. I'm an Orioles fan. I grew up here, man. So I grew up hating the Yankees like that. And Jeter looks over at me and gives me that glare like that. I said, hey, come on, man. I'm just being honest, dude. The Orioles are my team. I go, I'm loving it now, though. It feels unbelievable now. And so I remember saying that though. I said, look, how can you not be excited to put on the same uniform that Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, and on and on and on, the legendary, people in the game of baseball that have put on this uniform and then walk out the Yankee Stadium and look at the monuments and stuff. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. It's just goosebumps.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. It's the best. The best.
You got it.
You should.
Thank
Kia,
you. I get out of here, but I thank you so much.
anytime.
All right.
Take care, Kia.
Appreciate it.
So yeah, so we have actually, if you don't mind, can we switch? We have a couple fan questions for you on
Absolutely.
on my speaker app. So one of our fans, they want to know, who's your favorite pitcher to watch now?
Ooh, that's a good one. So I have really enjoyed watching Max Scherzer do his thing the last 10 years or so now, whatever. I mean, obviously he's been around longer than that, but since he's really come on, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for people that had that intensity like that, because that was the thing. All my teammates who ever played with me, like I said, I was always known as a jokester and the goofball and stuff, whatever, on the 4 days in between my starts. And then, my guys with the Reds, Aaron Boone and all this. I remember Boone was going, dude, I've never seen anything like you, man. He goes, I've never seen a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde routine better than you. Because on the day I pitch, man, I come in with my headphones on. Don't talk to me. I don't want to talk to anybody. Don't look at me, and stuff. That's my one day that I'm locked in, man. And I'm just I used to, even though I didn't throw it by guys, and I ended up, I was just I always had that stare and stuff, whatever, because I was this is my day to be locked in and stuff. So I always appreciate someone that has that intensity like that. So I've enjoyed watching Max Scherzer with his intensity. And then, I'm always a sucker for lefties too. So I've really enjoyed watching Max Fried from the Braves go at it too, man. I think that guy's pretty special himself too.
Another fan question here we have for you. They want to know, they want to know how special was it to play for three of the top teams back in the day with the Reds, Braves, and Yankees?
Yeah, I mean, the way I tell people, I'm like, look, I felt blessed. And like I said, the fact that I got to be able to play a kid's game, get paid ridiculous amount of money to do it. It's like I hit the jackpot just to even make it to the big leagues, right? And then on top of that, to be able to play for 14 years and then, go to the World Series. I mean, look at Ernie Banks, played 20 years and never played in one postseason game. Yep. And yet, and I got to partake in, I don't know how many postseasons and 3 World Series, win a World Series. And so, but to be able to do it for storied franchises, the best ultimate franchise ever, the team of the 90s, the Braves, a team as decorated as the Reds. I mean, gosh, I just had to pinch myself and say, man, Danny, you really are living a blessed life, man.
We'll take one more fan question here. They want to know the funniest teammate that you played with.
Funniest teammates. See, I was always definitely up there just because I would do imitations and pranks and noises, my train noise. And when I was with the Braves, Maddox, I always used to do this like a fake fart noise. And whenever we check in the hotel, and we'd all get our keys, they'd be laid out on the desk for us, whatever. And then so there'd be 10 of us in an elevator, but there'd always be 4 or 5 other random people, hotel guests, get in the elevator, and they'd be hitting 28, 29, because we stayed in pretty, high-rise hotels and stuff. And we'd wait till they hit 29. And as soon as the doors would close, Maddox always be yelling, so I do the loud fake fart, and then everybody go, "Oh my God, who did that?" So I put myself up there. But as far as some of my other teammates, man, yeah, what's funny? I'm trying to think. It's just one of the other funniest guys. We were never teammates, but one of the other funniest guys during my time was Ryan Dempster.
Oh yeah,
that guy's hilarious, man. God, have you ever heard him do his Harry Carey? And then he would do the Will Ferrell old school, when he got hit with the tranquilizer. Wait. Wow. You're crazy. I like you.
And now he's doing great things as an analyst now, which is
yeah, he does a great job.
And Jeremy?
Yeah, I was wanting to ask you this. How did you figure out you can do such a good train whistle impression?
It was funny, Jared. When I was with the Pirates, Stan Belinda, right-handed pitcher, the closer, he could do it somewhat, and I heard him doing it the one day. I'm like, dude, what the heck are you doing, man? And stuff. So he told me about it, and he said, it's actually my buddy. He's a farmer, man. He goes, he's a, like old school farmer, Denny. And then sure enough, a couple days later, his buddy was in the stands just watching BP with us before the crowd was in. And that guy's, whoa, you know, belting it out and stuff, whatever. And I'm like, all right, that's it. I got to learn this, man. So I'm like, how do you do that? And I remember going back to my hotel room every night for like the next like 3 or 4 weeks, just trying to figure out where that came from. And then finally, man, when I finally got it the one day, I was like, all right, I think I got it now. And then Stan Belinda will say too, he goes, I could do it okay. He goes, Nagel took it to another level.
Yeah, I saw a video of it, like of you in the locker room on YouTube earlier, right before this, and I'm just like, how does someone figure out how to do that? So thank you for that.
I used little kids would ask me, Jeremy, and I used to tell them, I go, you know that wooden whistle that you could actually do the sound with? I go, I swallowed one when I was a kid, and it's been stuck there ever since. And then you never fail. You see a couple of them go, wait, really? I'm like, no, I'm joking. Please don't go do that now.
That's great. That's great.
So I got to ask you about, obviously you dealt with Brian Cashman throughout your playing career, but tell our fans, I don't know if you saw what he did yesterday about the comments during this press conference at the GM meetings. He went off yesterday. He dropped the F-bomb during the press con during the Q&A, and he thinks that he told Yankee fans that we still have a great team if we don't make moves this offseason. He still believes in the analytic department, the front office. What are your thoughts? I don't know if you saw it, but what are your thoughts by what I said, what he said yesterday? And he basically went against the Yankee fans yesterday, and now he's getting a lot of hatred this morning.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see it. I'll be honest with you. I didn't see it. So I can't comment on, as far as his comments or whatever. But to comment on like just that whole scenario and stuff, that's kind of shocking because as you guys know, I mean, that's your base, man, and they don't get more passionate than the Yankees fan base, I mean, I'm sure Red Sox fans and Philly fans will argue, and stuff too, but let's face it, man, come on, Yankee fans are some of the best that, that ever lived and stuff. And they're very passionate about their team, and rightly so. And so why would you want to piss off your fan base? I'm kind of shocked that he would do that. And, look, I get sticking with your guns to a certain degree as far as, hey, we believe in our analytics. We believe in our people that are going out there and, and trying to, sign the right people and that, that stuff, whatever. However, look, let's be honest. Facts are facts. It hasn't gotten it done. They've fallen short. And this year they fell way short.
Yep.
So it's just kind of shocking to me that he could even make that comment when you thought it'd be one thing if they went to the playoffs and lost, or let's say they had, multiple god awful injuries and everything else, yet still only finished maybe a game out or something like that. But this is one of, the toughest years they've had in a long time. Right. Yeah. So that being said, how can you go off of, and that, I don't know. To me, it seems like, I think, I feel as someone that I feel like I know the game pretty well too. I think they're short. I think they need to go out there and add some key pieces. There's no question about it. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do as far as even some of the, is Rizzo re-signed? He signed like a 2-year deal.
Yeah, he signed a 2-year deal, so he'll be back.
I think he'll have a bounce back year. I mean, what about third base?
Oh, third base is LeMahieu for now. I think I heard.
LeMahieu. They're going to move him permanently third. Okay,
so, yeah,
gotcha. So but look. That being said, you can never have enough pitching.
Yeah.
Never have enough pitching. And it's shocked me that the last couple of years they have not landed some of these bigger name free agents, stuff. I understand. They got what's it called, the lefty who was hurt this year.
Rodon.
Rodon. That shocked me. I think his injuries had a lot to do with that. I think that guy's a lot better pitcher than what he showed. I think he'll have a bounce back year. But that being said, it's just kind of shocking that they weren't able to get any one of these big name guys the last couple of years. So, I'd like for as a Yankee fan, and stuff, and for their fans, I'd like to see them go out and try to at least land somebody. I mean, they have to upgrade that. They have to maybe add another, arm or two to the pen, because you can never have enough arms. You can't. I mean, look at every team that's won it over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. They have loaded bullpens, and the rotations are pretty solid, at least for those top three, top three spots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the injuries definitely played a part of not doing as well, but they had no depth to back it up. Once Judge went out, the team kind of like died. Nobody performed. June was in July, and the whole summer was just brutal to watch as a fan. And, I think if they had that depth, or if they went out and tried to do something at the deadline, which they didn't at all, which is a whole nother problem, I think they could have, either been closer, or just, you had people who could have sold off, and they chose not to. And I think there's just a lot of disagreement in that Yankee front office between Hal and Cash and the whole analytics department. I don't think anyone's on the same page there.
No.
And I think that's one thing they have to figure out if they want to actually contend.
Without a doubt, Jeremy, like I was telling you earlier too, there's a reason why the Braves were, yes, they only won one World Series, and that was a shame. But when you look at, 14 straight division championships, that's a pretty incredible run. Yeah. And the reason why it happened was because they had that continuity, from top on down, and they all believed in each other. They all bought into the system. The players bought into it, and so I think another thing that's really, really an underrated thing is the Yankees could go out and sign, a couple of those one or two really good veteran guys that still have it in them, that can still play good, but are great clubhouse guys. I know the Braves, there's rumors that the Braves are talking about bringing Jason Hayward back.
Yeah.
Is Hayward going to put up, all-star numbers? No. He had a decent year actually offensively with the Dodgers last year, but they said, apparently that guy is one of the best clubhouse guys that you can have, and stuff. So, you can get good offensive production, but when you also bring that clubhouse presence in there, man, that's one of the most underrated things you can have in any sport. So I think that'd be another good thing that the Yankees could do too, is go look at pieces like that also.
Yeah, speaking of pieces like that, you play with Clay Bellinger, an underrated player in my opinion, and his son is a currently free agent, and there's been talks that Cody might join the Yankees, or his son. So can you talk about like how special would that be, you playing with his father, and how special would it be seeing his son potentially coming to the Yankees this year or this offseason?
I think that would be incredible, because I think Cody's got a lot left in his tank. Obviously, he's not old, Yeah. I think I just from a fan's perspective, and again, somebody that watches the game and kind of analyzes it myself. I love doing that. I was shocked at how much he kept tinkering. When he won the MVP, he came back the next year in spring training and had a different stance. I'm like, well, the old saying is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why would you want to change something that coming off that season he had? Yeah. It almost reminded me of like Cal Ripken. Cal Ripken used to change his stance so many times throughout his career. So I'm like, Cody, man, get back to the basics, dude. Like, and he was so good about 2 strikes, flicking that ball to left field and everything and stuff too, So, but look, he came back and had a great bounce back year this year. So I think he would be a heck of a, addition to that team. And like you said, plus there's that personal story behind it too. I think it'd be pretty incredible for him and his dad to be able to play for the same team as well too. So, I think Yankee fans can always appreciate a good heartwarming story like that as well too. But most importantly, I think they'll appreciate that, let's face it, you're bringing another lefty power hitting, at the Yankee Stadium, they're always going to have success there.
Yeah, and tell our fans, and how special was it for you every time you went on the mound, and your defense made it so easy for you guys. You had Tino Martinez, Derek Jeter, Chuck Knobloch, Scott Roches, you had Bernie Williams, you had David Justice. Talk about playing and having that type of players in the defense behind you when you were pitching every 5th day.
Well, that's huge. Anytime you know that you got that type of defense behind you, because look, the truth is, earlier in my career, when I was at the Pirates, we were a young team, and we had some guys that were kind of playing out of position and stuff too. And so we weren't great defensively on a couple of those lean years. We had a couple really good defensive guys, and we had some guys that, maybe weren't playing in the right position or something. And so as a pitcher, sometimes there's an added pressure that, man, I got to make the perfect pitch, because, if this ground ball is kind of like a tweener, or if this, kind of a, lazy fly ball, it might not be caught or something, whatever. So, last thing you want to do is now put that extra unwanted pressure on yourself. The game's tough enough as it is for you to put that, even more unwanted pressure on you. So when you can go out there on a daily basis, night in, night out, knowing that you've got that type of defense behind you with tons of gold glovers and stuff out there, it makes your job that much easier as a pitcher. You just trust, like I go back to the Maddox thing, right? Yeah. The best hitter still fails 7 out of 10 times. So, but in this case too, when you got that type of defense behind you too, even all the more incentive to just go after guys and challenge them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Over the last few years, it seems like the Yankees, every time they sign a free agent or make a big trade, the player has not worked out as well. You've seen it with Joey Gallo, Frankie Montas, just 2 of the most recent ones. Do you think that's the Yankees trying to change them, or do you think that it's true that some people just can't play in New York?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably a combination of a couple of things. I think there's no question the bright lights and the media attention and everything else. It's a whole nother animal when you come to New York and you deal with that stuff. So I think there's certainly guys that maybe don't have the personalities that can adjust to it. I think that certainly plays a part in it. And then to be honest with you too, Jeremy, it's then it becomes like that snowball effect too, that even when they do start feeling comfortable, they just got themselves in such a rut sometimes that they can't dig themselves out of it, and it's not because I think it reaches a point where they don't really let that bother them as much anymore, but it's that old domino effect, like success breeds success, but failure can also lead to more failure also too. And sometimes it's just tough to dig yourself out of that hole, because then it's not so much that they can't handle the bright lights and everything. It's just that now, like we were saying, like we were just talking about, right? When you have a bad defense behind you, now you put that unwanted pressure on yourself. Well, now you start, to have failures and another failure, and then now you're putting more pressure on yourself because they just want to prove themselves to the fans, to prove that they were worthy of that contract and stuff. Not because they can't succeed in the bright lights and all that, but because they're professionals, man. And it doesn't matter how much money they're making. They want to go out there and they want to perform and they want to prove that I am worth this, man. Dang it. And so it's just that bad snowball effects that happen sometimes.
Yep. Tell our fans, what was it like playing with Derek Jeter in your career? And obviously a heck of a career, Hall of Famer, and now he's doing big things on MLB on Fox during the postseason. And he has a lovely family, a beautiful wife, 3 kids. Talk about his playing with him, and now you're seeing the next generation of Yankees shortstop in Anthony Volpe, where in the beginning he was kind of struggling until the Yankee fans were giving up on him, but now he's a Gold Glove winner and the first rookie to ever to win a Gold Glove with the Yankees. But talk about your career with the Derek Jeter and now seeing Volpe's growth.
Yeah, I mean, look, whenever anybody asks me about Jeter, the first thing I tell them is that the guy was unbelievable to the way he handled all the success and all that notoriety and stuff. Because I mean, look at it. I mean, he never had a scandal. He played the game the right way. Yes, he dated a bevy of supermodels and stuff, whatever, but why wouldn't you when you're young and single and the captain of the New York Yankees? I mean, it would crack me up when you would occasionally hear if that might be the one negative thing that people would say. Oh, he's dating all that. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, hello, like those guys wouldn't too. I mean, that was just a jealousy comment when you hear stuff like that. But he did everything the right way. He went about the game the right way. His personal life. He dedicated himself, on a night in and night out basis, that he wanted to play the game the right way, the Yankee way. And he set the tone. He set the example, whatever, for all the other guys, around him and stuff. And that's why even from, early on, even the veteran guys on the team, they looked up to him, and rightly so, and understandably so, because he set such a perfect example for everyone else, and that's what leaders do. It doesn't matter if you had 2 or 3 years in the big leagues like he did at one point, and stuff. When you're a leader and you're a born leader, you're going to do it the right way. So it was fun to watch that, and the way he handled himself and everything. And it showed, like you said, it shows what everything he's done in his life, since then and stuff too. And so, the bar has been set, so I think, again, like we were just talking about, the pressure, can you imagine being Volpe, a young guy, and saying, God, I got to live up to, because it's not like Jeter, it's not like we're talking about Joe DiMaggio, whatever. Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, I think I remember him, whatever, Jeter's still around. He's still in commercials. He's still around the ballpark and stuff. So, that played into Volpe's mind and stuff. So, to me, it's impressive the way he could kind of like keep his composure, not let the lows, get to him too much and everything, and stay even keel and come back and have a pretty damn good successful season. Like you said, I didn't realize he won the Gold Glove, so I hadn't really followed that, but I'm not surprised. I was really impressed with the way the kid played the game and stuff too. So I think the kid's got a bright future ahead of him, no doubt.
Yeah, the comparisons are there. I mean, it's hard to live up to the name Derek Jeter, and even if he doesn't, Yankee fans will take that elite production over a 20-year career, just like they did with Jeter, even if it's a fraction of what
Absolutely,
Jeter did.
and I mean, look, I mean, he's obviously already showed more power than Jeter at this stage in his career. I mean, he's got a long way to go, but I mean, it's definitely a really promising start. So the future is bright for that kid.
So another former teammate of yours, Tino Martinez. We mentioned to you before that we're doing an event with him in December. Can we get a Tino Martinez story? Just a memorable one or a funny one, whatever you got.
Oh man. Oh God, I'm trying to think of any good funny ones or something. The main thing that sticks out with me with Tino is that I had faced Tino. God, we faced each other a ton in the Pacific Coast League because, and I just remember going, will somebody get this guy out of this league? My God, I think he was hitting like 420, whatever, because nobody, myself and everybody were like, can we please get this guy at Pacific Coast League? Because this is a pretty good hitters league too. There's a lot of small ballparks and stuff because he was stuck behind. Who was the first baseman for the Mariners then?
Edgar Martinez.
Yeah, maybe it was Edgar at that
Is
point.
it Edgar?
Yeah. Or was it Olerud? Because was that before? No, because Olerud was still with the Blue Jays then.
Wait,
oh my God!
This was 2000, right?
Yeah, because he was definitely stuck behind somebody, and that's why he was still in the Pacific Coast League. Because we're like going, get this guy up to the big leagues, get him, trade him something. Because everybody was tired of facing him down there because the guy was just good. He was a hitting machine. Yeah, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on who was the starting first.
For you. Hold on. But you talk about the first baseman for the Mariners?
Yeah, because Tino was, obviously first base in the minor leagues coming up, but that's the reason why they said
is it John or Reed Roard?
I think it was Edgar. I mean,
it could have been Edgar at that time, because Edgar was
that early 90s, late 80s?
He didn't transition to the full-time DH until a few years after that. So maybe it was Edgar.
Okay. I mean,
either way, the point is that guy did not belong in AAA. I mean, he was mashing everything down there. So we were like, please get this guy out of here, man.
Love that.
Yeah. Before we let you go, so Doug McCavage is coming on the show next week, Friday. And he shared your post just now on Instagram. And when was the first time you connected with Doug? And talk about his career also. Doug McCavage, underrated. Whoever's tuning in right now, whoever doesn't know about Doug McCavage, check his highlights. In my opinion, underrated player. But talk about your connection with Doug McCavage.
Well, what's funny is Doug and I really don't know each other personally. We never, because he was a few years younger than me. But I respected his talent. Like, I mean, my God, what an incredible fielder! Yeah, I mean, ridiculous. Probably. And but he was, because we're Facebook friends and Instagram friends, and he was talking about I think we were both like kind of complaining about the state of the game and stuff, whatever. At one point, whatever, like a year or two ago, and then he was talking about what he would do different, whatever, if he was commissioner of the game and stuff, whatever. And he's like, okay, you know what? I think it's about time I start a podcast like that, and so we're going to talk about all this crap going on right now like that, and stuff. And I was like, do it, bro. I go, I'll be your Ed McMahon, man. You can bring me on like that. He goes, all right, deal, Denny. He goes, it'll be the Doug and Denny show.
Do you have time for more fan questions or?
Yep.
All right.
Nathan, can I ask something real quick?
Yeah.
Speaking of new rules and commissioners, a lot of new rule changes came to baseball this season, one of them being the pitch clock.
Yeah.
Tell us, if you were pitching today, how would you feel about the pitch clock after seeing, I think, a generally successful version of it this year?
I love it. I'm a fan of the pitch clock. That's one rule that I had no problem with because I love to work fast. I could not stand it when hitters would get in there and had their hand up and digging in, or you had like Isaac Nomar with his gloves, had that routine and stuff. I like to work fast because it was good for me. Our fielders liked it, because they stay on their toes and stay sharp. You ask any fielder and they love the pitcher that work quick, and stuff, because the one thing they hated was a human rain delay pitcher. It took forever to throw the ball. But same thing with hitters too. There was a lot of hitters that took their time getting in and out between every pitch and everything. So I'm a huge fan of that. I would have loved to have had that in my time. So I think that's been a great thing, like you said too, and it's shown success that it sped up the game in a good way this year.
Yeah, I think they need that for high school because those games are 7 innings and they take longer than MLB games now.
Tell me about it, dude. We had a few games this past year when I was coaching. I'm like, oh my God. I go, we need to get the sundial out for this game.
So we have a couple of fan questions here before we let you go. One of our fans wants to know, would you consider being a pitching coach in college, the minors, or majors?
Absolutely. Yep. I definitely would. I probably if somebody asked me, said, well, okay, which one would you choose? I think I would still probably choose either the high school or college level because I just really enjoy working with these kids where I feel like you can still kind of mold them a little bit, and stuff, and get to them, and really, really help them sharpen the mental and the physical aspect. When I see something, I feel like that's one of my good, attributes is picking up something, whether it's a release point or something, or where they're striding with their stride or something. I'm able to pick apart. But I subscribe to my high school coach called it the KISS method, right? Keep it simple, stupid, right? And that's what I do, because I don't want these kids going out there with 7 or 8 different mental thoughts now in their head. You pick out one thing you see them doing wrong, you work on that one thing, and that's it. Maybe the next start, maybe there's one other thing, but you don't want 7 thoughts in their head, at that time.
Another question, one of our other fans wants to know what's it been like for you being on these shows and sharing your stories in your career?
Oh man, it's been a blast. I love the fact that we have all these different avenues now, with podcasts and streaming services, and I just got back from Vegas doing a couple episodes with my comedian buddy Frank Nicotero on a show that he's doing out there. It's kind of like comedy and gambling, but then talking about sports and stuff too. And so it's always been right up my alley. I did a lot of TV stuff and radio stuff, whatever, in my day. I used to host a show when I was with the Reds and when I was with the Braves and stuff, and I almost got the Washington Nationals color analyst job, back in the day. Came down between me and FP Santangelo. But it's the best job that I never got, because my kids it was 2010 and my kids were 10 and 5 years old at the time. My twins, I 23-year-old son and 19-year-old boy and girl twins, but they were young at the time. And as you guys know, when you're a color analyst too, you travel as much as the players do. So I would have been away from my kids most of the season again. And so even though it would have been a great experience, I'm glad I didn't get it, because I was able to be a full-time dad, dad for my kids and stuff. But now that my kids are grown, I've been really enjoying doing this stuff more and everything. So who knows? Maybe you might see me on some sort of full-time podcast here soon.
Yeah, maybe you can maybe you'll partner up with Doug or whoever.
There you go. The Doug and Denny hour.
Yeah. We'll take 2 more fan questions here. One of our fans wants to know, since you're a lefty, what was it like playing with Ted Lilly in your career?
Oh man, Ted Lilly, dude, God, that guy was a great dude, man. First and foremost, they don't come much better than him, man. Just a class act, and stuff, and quiet guy, man, kind of unassuming and stuff, whatever, but just a fierce competitor though too, man. I love watching him, because he was one of those quiet assassins, I always called them, But so again, anytime I have a fellow lefty, it's always fun to watch those guys go to work too, because Ted had sneaky stuff too, man. He was definitely one of those underrated guys.
Yeah, I love the lefty handers where they're not overpowering, but they can sneak pitch. Like Rich Hill, he's still going at it. Look at Rich Hill, what a great player. And he still has the torp, and I mean, I'm not like he can full hitter still.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. As they say, if you're left-handed and breathing, you still got a chance.
We'll take one more fan question here. They want to know, talk about the last inning of the World Series when they made the final out and you guys were celebrating on the field and going to what was the first thing you guys did after you guys left the stadium as a team after you won the World Series?
Well, I mean, the first and last thing we did was we went to, I believe it was called Veruca's. It was known as the Yankees bar. I don't know if it still is or not, but that's where we always went. And man, I mean, we had a good time. I like to have a pop in my day, a pop or two and stuff, whatever. But I mean, it was all of us. I'm divorced now, but my wife was with me at the time too, and we drank till the sun came up, and that was great, because I mean, look, we just won the World Series in New York and stuff. But that was a crazy thing to walk out the next morning and watching people all of a sudden we open that door and the sun hits and I felt like a vampire, wherever. And people are, catching cabs going to work and catching the subways. And here we are stumbling out of the bar, just drunk as can be. But boy, I tell you what, I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world, though. That was pretty incredible.
Yeah. So the two Yankee bars now we have near Yankee Stadium is called Billy Sports Bar, and then Stan's Sports Bar.
Okay. Yeah. There's usually one designated, at least one or two designated Yankee bars.
Yeah. Jeremy?
You brought up a point, your celebration. Clearly you had a great time. Did it feel better winning a World Series, or did it feel worse losing a World Series?
Ooh, that's a good question, Jeremy. Yeah. Man. Yeah. Oh boy. And I'd like to tell you it felt better. Oh man, I'll tell you what, dude, seriously, that's a great question, man.
Yeah.
Because you ask any athlete, and every athlete, it's one of those cliche sayings, but it's so true. Any good athlete, and any athlete that's made it to any professional level will tell you they hate to lose more than anything. So as great as that feeling felt to win it, that losing feeling, it just stings, man. It just haunts you for so long. And I think because of the fact we were up 2-0, looking like not we had it made, but we were definitely in the driver's seat for sure. Thinking, man, and for me, I hadn't won one yet. So at least my teammates, they just tasted it the year before in '95. Still didn't make it that much easier to lose like that, But I mean, I'm telling you, Jeremy, like I go back to my senior year in high school, right? We were 25-0, ranked number 5 in the nation. For our team, we had a stacked team. We had like 9 guys go Division I baseball, and so we were 25-0 going into the regional playoffs, and ranked number 5 in the nation. The 4 teams in front of us ended up losing in their state playoffs, like 2 teams from California, 1 from Florida, 1 from Texas. So if we won out, we were going to finish number 1 in the nation, and we lost to this 75-mile-an-hour, junk ball pitcher from the school in Baltimore or whatever like that, and I was the losing pitcher. We lost like 2-1 or whatever, and then I struck out with men on second and third to end the game too. That game still haunts me. It's still one of the worst games that still haunts me to this day. So I guess the best way I can answer your question is that I think losing probably almost is even a harder feeling, a more crazier feeling than winning. As great as winning it was and celebrate with the teammates stuff, there's just something about it. You just can't get those losses out of your head, man.
What was you explained the celebration after you won the World Series, but what was the reaction after you lost and how everyone had to go back to the clubhouse?
Just dejected, man. It was crazy. Like, I was on another buddy of mine, this guy Eddie Mata, a podcast, and he surprised me and had brought Leyritz on to talk about the Game 4 and stuff, whatever, but Jimmy's my buddy, man. I love him. And we were talking about, the old agony of defeat, and stuff that they used to show on the Wide World of Sports and stuff. It's amazing that, you go from one extreme to the other, the total elation in the Yankees clubhouse and stuff. But we knew we had a crazy feeling in that bus ride and the plane ride going back from Atlanta to New York, that it was such a crazier feeling coming, what a difference it was coming back the first time up 2-0 and just feeling elated, like I said, not we had it, but we were in the driver's seat to now having to go back there and stuff. That was already a dejected feeling. And so it was almost like you could sense that, it just wasn't there, and stuff. And then to ultimately lose, it was tough. You see grown men cry and everything. Probably the worst locker room I was ever part of, to be honest with you, Jeremy, was that in '92, it was the 3rd straight year of the Pirates going to the NLCS. It was my first year with them. But so they had lost in '90 to the Reds, '91 to the Braves, now '92 again to the Braves. But that one is the infamous one where we were up 3-0 going in the last inning. And then, Francisco Cabrera hits that hit, and Sid Bream, old sleep-footed Sid Bream, slides in ahead of Barry Bonds' throw. And so to watch Andy Van Slyke and Barry Bonds and Mike LaValliere and Doug Drabeck, all these grown men literally just on the floor, bawling their eyes out. Wow. That was a tough feeling, because they knew that team was going to be broken up after that year too. That, they got rid of everybody after that year. So they knew that was the last of that run. You talk about, like I said, that was probably one of the toughest locker rooms that I ever had to be a part of, and watching, the tough part of the tough side of losing.
Well, we can add you to the great Yankees list we had on the show. Speaking of Jim Leyritz, we had Jim on the show too. We had Jeff Nelson and we had Johnny Damon. So now you're the another Yankee on the show. So you can be added to Johnny Damon, Jim Leyritz, and now Jeff Nelson on the show. But Denny, I just want to say thank you for joining the show. It was truly an honor sharing your story here. And also thank you to all the fans for tuning in and asking great questions. And Jeremy, as always, keep up the great work, and also Kia for coming here as always as a co-host too. And Danny, where can our fans find you on social media, and what do you have coming up next?
Well, yeah, Instagram, you can look me up on at Denny Neagle 15. Oh, and then I'm just my Facebook page is public also too, so you can just look me up. I'm just under Denny Neagle on that one also too. I don't do anything else. It's stuffing up. My son made my Instagram page like 5 years ago, and I finally started using it about 6 months ago. So I'm still trying to grow that one. So feel free to go ahead and follow me. I try to put up some funny stuff.
Hey, we'll definitely help you promote your page, and fans, go follow him right now. If you guys are not following him, go follow him on Instagram now. Everybody knows him now, and Obviously, World Series champion with the New York Yankees. Played with had a great career. Played with some great players, great teams, great teammates, great managers. Denny, thank you for like I said, thank you again. We'll stay connected. Well, I'd love to have you back on the show at some point, and let's keep going and keep it going. And thank you again.
You got it anytime, man. I'll come back whenever you guys want, man.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
You got it, Jeremy.